when letting go became the ultimate indulgence. They arrived carrying expectations they didn't realize they were holding, ideas about what luxury should give them, what it should prove, what it should protect them from. And one by one, this hotel took those expectations away. Not abruptly, not aggressively, gently. This place was not designed to add pleasure. It was designed to remove control. Control over schedules, over outcomes, over identity, over the need to extract value from every moment. And in that removal, guests encountered something rare, relief without reward. To understand why this hotel mattered, we have to look at how indulgence had evolved. Luxury taught people to optimize rest, to maximize relaxation, to curate experiences so nothing was wasted. Even leisure became a task to perform correctly. Letting go, ironically, required effort. This hotel questioned that logic. What if indulgence didn't mean receiving more, but needing less? What if the deepest comfort came not from being catered to, but from releasing the impulse to manage the experience at all? Design followed this idea with discipline. There were no optimal paths, no recommended highlights, no schedules disguised as freedom. Spaces did not guide behavior. They allowed it. Guests were not encouraged to do anything, and that absence was intentional. At first, this felt unsettling. Guests asked what they should do, when things would happen, where the experience was meant to peak. The hotel gave no answers. There was nothing to master, nothing to unlock, nothing to complete. And slowly, something unexpected occurred. Without a goal to reach, tension surfaced, then softened. Without expectations to meet, attention relaxed. The body stopped bracing for what came next. Letting go stopped feeling like failure. It began to feel like permission. But indulgence built on release carried a profound risk. Without structure, without promise, without escalation, some guests feared the experience would dissolve into nothing. That value would disappear, without something to hold on to. As the first season unfolded, the team watched closely. Would guests resist the absence, or would they discover that letting go itself was what they had been craving all along? Resistance came first. Guests tried to recreate familiar patterns, filling days with plans of their own making. They scheduled walks, timed meals, invented structure where none existed. Letting go, it turned out, was harder than holding on. The hotel did not intervene. There were no gentle reminders to slow down, no suggestive rituals to guide release. The space remained neutral, offering nothing to push against and nothing to lean on. Control could only dissolve if guests allowed it to. The conflict deepened on the second day. Without external structure, impatience surfaced. Some guests felt restless, even anxious. They questioned the value of a place that refused to organize their time. Accustomed to being led, they felt exposed by the freedom. And then, gradually, effort gave way to fatigue. Trying to manage nothing became exhausting. Guests stopped planning out of necessity rather than insight. Schedules loosened. Attention drifted. The mind, finally deprived of purpose, began to settle on its own. This was a reveal. Letting go was not an action. It was what happened when effort ran out. Staff noticed a shift immediately. Guests slept longer. Conversation slowed. Even movement changed, less deliberate, more intuitive. People stopped asking what they should do and began responding to what they felt. Meals arrived when hunger appeared. Rest happened without permission. Time no longer needed to be justified. Yet the surrender created a new unease. Without goals or validation, guests confronted something unfamiliar, unstructured presence. There was nowhere to direct ambition, no achievement to mark progress. For some, this felt like emptiness. For others, it felt like relief deeper than pleasure. The hotel had not given them indulgence in the traditional sense. It had removed the pressure to earn it. But one final tension remained. If letting go felt this powerful, what happened when guests returned to a world that rewarded control, optimization, and constant striving? Could this release survive beyond the boundaries of the stay? That question hovered quietly as the days passed. Guests did not discuss it directly, but it shaped the final phase of the experience. As departure approached, control began creeping back in small ways. Packing started early. Messages were checked. The outside world reasserted its gravity, and yet something had shifted. Guests no longer rushed to fill their remaining time. There was no scramble to extract value before leaving. Instead, many did less. They sat longer, walked without destination, let silence stretch without trying to use it. The emotional buildup emerged in this contrast. The hotel had not changed their responsibilities. It had changed their relationship to effort. Letting go was no longer an abstract idea. It was something the body had practiced. The nervous system had learned what it felt like to stop holding everything together. Some guests felt a quiet grief, not for the place itself, but for the realization that most of their lives were structured around tension they no longer questioned. Control had masqueraded as safety for so long that release felt unfamiliar. Others felt something gentler, a confidence that they did not need to grip every moment so tightly, that not everything required optimization. That presence did not collapse when structure disappeared. The hotel did not offer advice on how to carry this forward. No closing rituals, no reflective sessions, no promises of transformation. Any attempt to formalize the experience would have turned release into another task. Instead, guests left with an embodied memory, the feeling of waking without agenda, the ease of moving without justification, the relief of not needing to make the experience succeed. This marked the emotional peak of the story. Letting go had not been taught. It had been felt, and once felt, it lingered, quietly challenging every moment that demanded control again. But one final realization remained. If letting go could not be held on to deliberately, then perhaps its power lay precisely in its refusal to be owned. The realization arrived without ceremony. Letting go could not be carried forward as a technique, a mindset, or a promise. The moment guests tried to preserve it, it slipped away. Release only existed when effort stopped chasing it. This was the true climax of the experience. As guests departed, the hotel did not offer closure. There were no final words, no reminders of what had been learned, no encouragement to change one's life. Any attempt to frame the experience would have turned letting go into something to maintain, and maintenance was the very thing they had been released from. Instead, the hotel trusted absence. Guests returned to lives filled with structure, deadlines, and expectation. Control resumed its familiar role, but it did not return untouched. In quiet moments, waiting in line, waking early, sitting without distraction, something echoed, a memory not of the place, but the state it had allowed. The body remembered before the mind did. It remembered what it felt like not to manage every moment, not to optimize rest, not to prove value. That memory surfaced unexpectedly, softening urgency just enough to be noticed. Letting go did not become permanent. It became possible. The hotel had not promised transformation because transformation implies effort. It had offered something more fragile and more honest, an experience that could not be held, only recalled. And in that recall, guests discovered a subtle shift. They began to recognize when control was necessary and when it was simply habitual. They noticed how often effort appeared without invitation, how rarely release was allowed to arrive on its own. The indulgence, they realized, had never been the hotel itself. It was a permission it created. Permission to stop managing. Permission to stop achieving rest. Permission to let moments exist without being used. In a culture that treats control as virtue, this place suggested something radical, that letting go is not weakness, that ease does not need justification, that the deepest forms of comfort cannot be owned, repeated, or optimized. They can only be encountered briefly, honestly, and without grasping. And that is why letting go became the ultimate indulgence. Not because it lasted, but because it reminded people that they did not have to hold everything all the time. So what do you think? Are we repeating the same mistake again?